Hello and welcome to the Philippines, and a happy Saturday here in the Philippines. We've got some new travel news to go over, and I'm here at the online PhilStar Global, the nation, and there had been a more severe travel ban on variant countries, any countries that had this new variant of the virus. And here going into February, they're going to drop the restrictions, and we'll go over some of the details here. Starting February 1, foreigners arriving in the Philippines would be required to make reservations for at least 7 days in any accredited quarantine hotel or facility as part of the additional guidelines for stemming the spread of the virus. Presidential spokesman Harry Roque Jr. yesterday said the arriving foreigners would be subject to swab testing for COV-2 on the 6th day from date of arrival. The IATF has set the conditions as the government travel restrictions involving 36 countries with recorded new variant lapses tomorrow. The restrictions no longer will be extended. Those allowed to enter under certain conditions must complete a 14-day quarantine. The IATF has ruled that arriving foreign nationals should have valid existing visas at the time of entry, so you cannot just show up and expect to get a tourist stamp. You need there are exceptions to this, and I'll get to that. Except for those qualified under the Balikbayan program under Republic Act 6768 or the act instituting the Balikbayan program. So that tells me that Balikbayans do not need the existing visas at the time of entry. Balikbayan, the technical description, is a Filipino who has been out of the country for at least a year, I believe is a technical term. And this would include, my understanding is it includes their, if they're traveling with their spouse and children as well, they're allowed in. It's best to contact your nearest Philippine embassy or consulate to get the latest details, because I've heard it from a number of people in a number of states in the U.S. and around the world saying that they get different information from some of the consulates. These foreign nationals should also have a pre-booked accommodation for at least 7 nights in an accredited quarantine hotel or facility. They shall also be subject to COVID-19 testing at the quarantine hotel or facility on the 6th day from the date of their arrival. He added that the entry of these foreigners would be subject to the maximum capacity of the ports for inbound passengers on the date of entry. And that is key, because you still have, I believe there's still tens of thousands. I think there's hundreds of thousands, less than 1 million overseas Filipino workers who have been repatriated, who have come back, lost their jobs, come back into the country over this last year. And tens of thousands of them still trying to get into the country. Now, this maximum capacity, many months ago, initially it was about 400 passengers that they were set up to handle, but since then they have increased their capacity, went up to like 1,200, and I suspect now it's in the several thousands, but I have not been able to find that information. The Bureau of Immigration has been directed to formulate the necessary guidelines. Unless covered by the exemptions, Roque said all foreign nationals, including those holding tourist visas, are still prohibited from entering the country until further notice. All foreign nationals who are not allowed entry to the Philippines, as stated by previous orders, including those holding tourist visas, are still prohibited to enter the country. Those who are allowed still need to complete their 14-day quarantine. Based on the previous memo, foreign nationals from 36 countries under restrictions who have not traveled outside of their countries within the last 14 days may be allowed to enter the Philippines, but under certain guidelines, and that's the key. Those allowed to enter the Philippines include accredited foreign diplomats and personnel of accredited international organizations, such as the World Health Organization and the United Nations. Also allowed are foreign dignitaries, those involved in medical or emergency cases, including their medical escorts. Now, if you are coming here on medical tourism, that may be a case. If you're coming here for medical dental, does that fall under that category? I'm not sure. You'll have to talk to your local Philippine embassy consulate about that. And here's the good part for many of you. Balikbayans, foreign spouses and minor children of Filipinos, children with special needs of Filipinos, foreign parents of minor Filipinos, and foreigner parents of Filipino citizens with special needs, regardless of age, shall be allowed to enter the country. Now that includes, I would guess, hundreds and thousands of people who are trying to get back into the Philippines. And here's some of the same information in bullet point. They've kind of updated this, put it in bullet point. Covers the same thing that we just covered if you want to read through that. I am still holding out hope that ivermectin, a readily available, has been used for decades all over the world for humans as well as animals, and already very well tested, that it will be included as a vaccine alternative in the coming months. There are dozens of tests going on. There are doctors who are using it effectively to treat and prevent this virus. And the WHO, they recently had a meeting with several doctors who have been using it effectively, and they're not recommending it yet, but they are not recommending it. So it's starting to open the doors up there, and that would be such an easy, quick, and cheap fix to this situation worldwide. There are countries in Africa that use it for parasites in humans, and those that use it heavily have much fewer cases of the virus. And there are, unfortunately, some of the companies, the Facebooks, the YouTubes, the Googles of the world have tried to suppress some of this information. They have even shut down, taken down some videos from doctors talking about this, ivermectin, but therefore I will not get into a big discussion about it. Just to mention it, do your own research. There's still quite a bit of information out there, and there will be more information coming out. Anyway, these vaccines may arrive in May, March, April, May, June, July. You're looking at the middle of the year at the very earliest before many people start getting vaccinated. If you watch the world news, which I have been doing, there's all kinds of issues about distribution of the vaccine. Several of these companies are not able to deliver the numbers of vaccines that they said they could. The logistics, the devil's in the details. The logistics of some large event like this is where we get into trouble. I'm going to put up some Bureau of Immigration screenshots a little bit later, but anyway, this is a look at one of the quarantine facilities here in Cebu City, I believe. And one of the reasons, a lot of people are very reluctant to go get tested, because who wants to possibly get a false positive and then be locked away in one of these places for 14 days. This paper is called The Freeman. It is owned by the Phil Star, and it centers basically on Cebu City news. So here, starting in February 1st, Cebu will remain in MGCQ, Modified General Community Quarantine, which is the which is the more lenient. More businesses have opened, restaurants, bars that serve food are able to open, more industries there again. It varies by region even there, because cities, barangays, villages can set up their own. The LGUs, the local government units, can set up their own restrictions. At the same time, they're policed differently, even though they have the same list of restrictions and requirements. Some areas are much more lenient than others. So it will be interesting to hear from you in the comments and about what the situation is in your part of the Philippines, those of you who are living here. And at the same time, how restricted are you? And if you would be so kind as to hit that like button, I would certainly appreciate that. That helps to promote the channel across the YouTube. Anyway, we're going to stay in for another month. One of the problem with these monthly deals, these businesses like resorts, hotels, they can't plan ahead. They can't plan ahead. I was at a few days ago. I was on Mactan, talked to a fairly new hotel, and he said we are not taking any bookings past January 31st because we don't know what the government's going to do. Are they going to go back and put in more strict restrictions so that we can't have any guests? So it really, I think the government really needs to step up, not just here, but around the world, and just say, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do this for 6 months, not a month at a time, going forward. And it's devastation that these lockdowns are creating is just unbelievable, really. And if you go down to the second paragraph there, there again, they're talking about 1 month. Most of the Philippines is under MGCQ modified, more lenient, but not the new normal. We aren't opening up to a new normal. So the areas still under the more strict areas, the Cordillera Autonomous Region, the NCR, which is the National Capital Region around Manila, Batangas, Tacloban, Davao City, Davao del Norte, Lanao del Sur, which is Mindanao, and Iligan City. These are screenshots I pulled off of the Facebook page of the Bureau of Immigration here in the Philippines. If you want to stop the video and read through those, you're welcome to do this. These are as of January 26th, and I suspect in the coming days they will be updating these a little bit. But anyway, I would suggest you go to their Facebook page. It seems like it is updated much more frequently than their website is. And some of you have asked me, can my Philippine girlfriend come and see me, fly out of the country? And here's some information about requirements for outbound Filipinos. They can't just buy a ticket and fly out. There are a number of requirements, and I'll do another video about that sometime. I think I've got a Filipino friend who works overseas, and getting out of the country a number of times to do what she had to do to get her job required some interesting jumping through hoops. And of course, if you have millions and millions of masks being worn, they're being discarded. Actually, many people wear those masks, even though they're one-use masks. They're reusing and reusing even the one-use masks. But you always ask your question when you institute a program, then what happens then? The obvious answer is what happens then is that you generate millions of new pieces of garbage, plastic garbage, the face shields in particular, and the face masks even more. Many people wear those single-use masks several times. They are, at that point in time, they are germ-filled, obviously, and they become a biohazard, if you will. And now they've come out with a law I will probably be the only one of maybe 10 people in the city who actually does this type of thing. The ordinance shall apply to all types of face masks, face shields, hand gloves, and other personal protective equipment, as well as disinfectant and hygiene products such as wipes, tissues, rubbing alcohol, and hand sanitizers. The ordinance prohibits the littering, throwing, or dumping of used face masks, face shields, all PPE, discards in public places such as streets, sidewalks, parks, canals, esteros, and other water bodies. The use of face masks made of organic recycled materials or even indigenous materials is hereby encouraged to emphasize effective waste management as primary avoidance of the use of disposable materials that are single use and can hardly be recycled. Indigenous being, I think, cocoa type fabrics made out of coconut products. Section 6 also requires all households to cut used masks in half to avoid possible reuse. They shall then be disposed of by putting them in a small garbage bag, ideally yellow in color, and disinfecting them with the recommended bleach solution. Bags containing the discarded masks must then be properly closed or sealed before disposal. The bags should then be segregated and labeled properly with a written mark which reads used masks, or by any yellow color indicating the International Color Code for Hazardous Materials. Yes, indeed, my friends, we have generated billions, trillions, godzillions pieces of biohazards, and you are not disposing of them properly. So let this be a lesson to you, and I hope that you all do follow the advice here. Cut them in half, put them in a bag, pour bleach in the bag, disinfect them, and dispose of them properly in the future. I often see them on the streets, on the sidewalks as I walk. I've seen pictures of them in the seas and the oceans and the lakes. So we are creating a major cleanup issue with all this extra plastic and biohazard being put out there. I wish I had much better news today. I'd tell you that you could fly tomorrow in any place that you wanted to, but that's not the case. It is what it is, and we're living in these frustrating and interesting, challenging times anyway. So wherever you are in the world, I wish you the best, and try to stay busy, stay sane, and stay healthy, and we'll see you next time.